There's certainly a lot of different ways to teach geography to your students, but is it working the way that you're teaching it? I made some major shifts and I'm excited to share what I found. Hello and welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. My name is Sarah, and to be completely honest, I have wanted to make this video for ages. I actually first started testing out this new system of teaching geography back in fall of 2015 and have continued to perfect it over time and finally have everything all organized and together to be able to share it with you in a much easier and foolproof way. So that's exactly what I'll walk you through in the video. But first, I want to share where I used to be. And this actually stems back to when I was a student, what I saw teachers doing for geography, as well as even my first year of teaching, doing it the same way, which just doesn't work. So typically for geography, as a student as well as a first year teacher, I would give my students a map of some region or selection of countries, something like that. And I'd have students label the map or work with the map for a day or two. And then they would be held accountable for what they put on the map, such as on a test or quiz. And then, you grade the quiz or test, you pass it back, and you move on. There's nothing there that is encouraging the students to refer back to it or build upon their previous knowledge. After the test was done, they forgot that information. And then in that situation, what was even the point of doing that? Now, I'm not sure if that's been your situation or not, but I definitely know that there are better things to do. And so I'm thrilled to share that I created a system that I call Geo-Power. And this system breaks down different geographical locations depending on the version that you're using. And students learn it over a sustained period of time. And it continues building on each other while also still connecting back to what's previously been taught. So it actually sticks with the students. The best example of this was at my first school where I got to teach students multiple years. The first year I had piloted this program, I knew this program worked when I actually randomly asked my students about it a year later after I had taught them, since at that school it was pretty small, so I taught the students for 3 grade levels. Went through it. The students could still identify the 80 countries that we worked through over the past year, even though it had been over 9 months since we had talked about any of it. That works. So I'm thrilled to share this and, like I mentioned, have expanded the program. And I want to walk you through how to do this today. Of course, you can totally create this yourself. That's what I did. And believe me, it was a labor of love, a very time-consuming process. Or if you want this pre-made, printable, and ready to go and implement immediately, I will include links below. And actually, as a special, I'm offering 20% off any of these bundles for the next 2 weeks. So starting when this is uploaded until mid-February. Let's break down how this actually works. First, you pass out flashcards to your students, and the set of flashcards only contains 5 countries. You don't want to do too much because it becomes overwhelming. Students cut out the flashcards and write the name of the country on the back of the card. Now they have a really simple study tool they can use to continue learning about these places as well as continue reviewing. And to make it easy, on each map, there is both the country outline itself as well as a larger world map where you can see exactly where that country is located. So it's a perfect mix for both. It's also a great chance to talk about some of the cultural elements of that particular place as well, or connect it to something they might already know. Also, all of the Geo-Power systems that I have set up starts with some easier, larger countries first, and then works its way through to a bit more difficult locations as the program goes on. You can actually follow along in a free sample I have put together for you that's also linked below. So students are preparing the flashcards. While this is happening, you pull up the review slideshow that corresponds with each round of the program, which has the same countries that are on their flashcards in a slideshow format. This allows students to see it bigger on the screen and allows you to use the slideshow to go over it and discuss them. Then the last slideshow of each round has a blank map, which is perfect for students to practice the countries of that round, as well as countries from any previous rounds. And there's a lot of fun review games that you can do with that. One of my favorites to do was board races, where I divided my students up into 2 or 3 teams, and it was a race to see who could find that country first. Then at the end of that round, which For me, I typically did one round over the course of 2 weeks. I would review it a few times during the weeks, maybe 2 or 3 times, just for quick 5 to 10 minute reviews, just so it didn't take up a lot of time. Then there would be a short quiz at the end of that round that students would take, and that would just assess to make sure they knew where those countries were. As the program continued, they would be held accountable for up to 3 past rounds of Geo-Power, so up to 20 countries. And this was a chance to make sure it wasn't let me learn this and forget it situation. We were continuing to practice it. Of course, when the program's done, there is a final test as well, but it's not something the students were really nervous about because we had continued building and reviewing these the whole time. And one of my favorite review games for these quizzes or tests would be to do time trials with my different classes and see how quickly they could actually go through where the locations of the countries are. Now, sure, some critics might say, with all of the maps and mapping tools available online, do students really need to know where countries are? But I would actually say the same thing about math facts. With calculators everywhere, including on our phones, do they really need to have their multiplication tables memorized? I think yes. Having some of these base pieces of information memorized can be helpful in a lot of ways. One of the best ways is with current events. When students have this baseline of geography, it's a lot easier for them to know where something is when it's happening because they either know where that country is, or if they don't know where the country is, you can give them a context clue and say, oh, that's right by this country that we studied. And then it helps them have a little bit more context. Originally, I used this as a full year program, which is like my main Geo-Power program, which consists of 16 rounds, 80 countries total. However, if someone's looking for a smaller commitment and maybe wants to start their year off with some geography skills, I also put together 6 round versions, which could last for 12 weeks, of both a US history version and an ancient civilizations version. These versions are great because it gives you the chance to really personalize these 30 countries in each set to the places that students will be learning about, either in US history or ancient civilizations. And while I don't think this affects many of you, I do have a Spanish-speaking country version as well, which is a 4-round program with 20 countries, the 20 Spanish-speaking countries outside the United States. As I mentioned earlier in the video, for the next 2 weeks, I am putting all of these resources at 20% off. And if you want to actually try this for yourself, you can get round 1 of the Geo-Power program for free with the free sample link in the description field of this video. Of course, let me know any questions you have, but I'm thrilled to finally be sharing this with you, and I hope it will be as successful in your classroom as it was in mine. Feel free to check out any of our past videos over here, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel right up here. We'll see you next time. Bye.